It's been easy to feel uninspired by the rinse and repeat films we've seen hit streamers and theater screens for the past few years.
Disgusting.
Now, despite their quality and grandeur, it feels like the movie-going experience is more of a way to pass time than a way to accelerate it. And with the tidal wave of AI and shorter attention spans, it's been easy to believe that cinema's ship has started sailing away. With fewer and fewer titles making an imprint on the audience experience, movies have transformed from art to product to a background pastime. Even curators of Netflix content are looking for films that are good to watch while scrolling content in the foreground. So needless to say, the artistic expression of filmmaking sort of feels like it's on the decline. My passion for seeing films beyond indies became diluted. Well, that is until I saw Dune Part Two. Dune doesn't feel like every other blockbuster for several very apparent reasons. Its production design, sound design, costumes, visual effects, locations, and cinematography all stand out in even the trailer. But above all else, there's something that makes this film more unique than the rest, and it's a certain tone that it hits. And I think this has to do with its pacing. This vibe of letting scenes breathe, characters build, and environments become immersive to an audience might be the missing spice that Hollywood needs to rejuvenate the dying blockbuster. See, like many people born in the 90s, I missed the Star Wars boom. Yes, episodes 1, 2, and 3 came out, but I was too young to appreciate them, so my era was the Marvel and DC boom.
Star-Lord. Who?
The ride I had from the first phase of films became diluted with the overconsumption of what the franchise had turned into. A big business trying to fill seats. Now, this isn't to say there hasn't been an enjoyable franchise film in recent years. John Wick is awesome, and I'll continue seeing Matt Reeves' Batman franchise. You see, studios have hedged their bets on making the blockbuster spectacle the main theater attraction. Meaning the movies we go see at the cinema are either sequels,
You cannot control everything, Strange.
massive sci-fis, or something with big epic scenes so that it's worth our while seeing something on the big screen.
Kong, Godzilla, they can feel it too.
The feelings that independent movies bring us are kind of no longer there on the big screen. They're more absorbed in spectacle, explosions, sound design, and all the things that stimulate our senses. But there's something that Denis does with his films that sort of feels like a blend between both indie and spectacle. If you've seen Dune Part 2, you'll know the feeling you get 10 minutes into it. You get immersed into the world, the characters. It hits hard with emotion, energy, and suspense. Only 5% into the film's total runtime, it immerses the audience into the core of the film. So when Zendaya and Timmy kiss with Hans Zimmer's score shaking your soul, you're ready to be transported. And for the most part, this technique is quite effective, and it's used across almost every single film we've seen that's come out. But what Dune does so effectively is that you're immersed into the world almost immediately and don't need time to warm up to the characters. But this might be because Dune Part 2 is, well, Part 2, and we've already warmed up to the characters in the entire franchise, knowing exactly what it is because it's a sequel. Similar to the way TV shows warm us up season 1 and 2, making season 3 usually the banger. But let's just say we remove the entire aspect of there being Dune Part 1 and just let this live as a standalone film. See, the last time I felt this way in the theater was actually when I saw Arrival, also directed by Denis Villeneuve. The opening of the film hits us hard with Max Richter's Nature of Daylight and a montage that connects us to our protagonist emotionally, even before we understand the stakes of the film. Like the opening of Up, this could be its own short film, and you leave the cinema sad, but satisfied. And this pattern emerges a lot in his filmography. Creating scenes that feel like micro movies that dive the audience deeper into the character, therefore making the spectacle feel larger. Another philosophy that's typically seen across his films is that less is usually more, giving us just enough to feel what we want to feel while also giving us what the characters need us to feel. There's a term I've come to love using while directing actors, cinematographers, and editors, and it's something that I see across the board in most Denis Villeneuve films, and that's letting the scene breathe. In a time where films are hypercut fast to keep an audience connected to the scene, Denis' films almost do the opposite. Shots play out longer, emotions seem to build, and there doesn't shy away from big epic shots to exist so that the score can lead us into the next. Now, I'll admit this comes to a fault. Some movies have kind of gone too slow and too slow burn, but I think the pairing of both slow burn and better pacing makes something like Dune a movie experience we've all wanted. And what Denis does so well is that he champions cinema's two main categories: sound and vision. Sound made up of music, sound design, and dialogue. And vision, eyeline, environment, and movement. And paired together with taste, plays like a symphony. The attention to detail is insane on these films. And honestly, watching the behind the scenes is one of the best film schools. Just trying to adopt at least 1% what I'm seeing from this, because even if I only get 1%, that's getting me one step closer to the cinematic style to which I admire so much. And I've realized if I started implementing some of the stuff that they're doing in these big films and putting it in on my own, that's kind of something original. So here's some of the things that I've started taking from Denis' films and applying into my own. Breaking down the two sources of information into sound and vision. Starting with vision. Being inspired by longer moments and expressions or stares. Like, just look at this scene and how long they just stare at each other. Something else he does so well is environment shots. So getting wide shots, but even close-up details. The close-up details are cheaper to get, and they build environment just as well. So on my last film, I've just ran around and captured so many close-up detail shots just so we had cutaways, and it makes you feel the scene better. And finally, the biggest thing I learned from watching Dune and all the other Villeneuve films is movement. Not necessarily movement just for the sake of it, but only moving the camera when it tells the story or motivates the scene.
I storyboard almost the entire movie. That's where the mise en scène is born, the language. Then I go and I rewrite the screenplay from the storyboards.
Takes the script and then rewrites it after going through the storyboarding process, sort of making your storyboard the third part of writing. The final thing I want to talk about is sound design, using visual elements to enhance something that you see on screen. Now, there's no shortage of behind the scenes of how they created these wild sounds for Dune Part 1, and I'm sure more are going to come out for Dune Part 2. But just to think of visual elements that can be enhanced in post-production always elevates the film. So we did this on movies like our latest Batman movie of making the machine mechanical or having visual elements like rain, and it just always enhances it. So for me, like going into my next films, I'm just going to start looking for props, textures, insert shots that can help the auditory experience for the audience in order to fully surround the audience in the film. I think enhanced sound is almost like putting a color grade onto your visuals. It makes it feel bigger and better. I think what Denis does so well is that he pairs the three categories of filmmaking seamlessly together: audio, visual, and story. Now, each one of those branches can kind of be their own. You could just tell stories, you can just have auditory journeys like music, or you could have visuals that paint a story. But paired together and allowing them to have space to be amplified is really where the movie experience is enhanced. And I've started exploring and experimenting with these things in my own films by allowing scenes to breathe, play out. And we're really doing that on our new film Frequencies, which I'm so excited to share with you guys. It's turned out like a big, juicy hamburger of a film. Anyways, friends, if you like this channel, want to support it and take a look at some more filmmaking stuff, there's some buttons you can hit. But don't hit them. You know what? Don't even hit the buttons. You just go do your thing. Have a great day. I love you guys. And keep being sexy beasts like you are.